All right, guys, let's talk about the frigate bird. Pleasure to see. A lot of times guys don't see the frigate bird unless they're on the water and low because they're looking in the water, they're traveling, and they're not looking up. So make it a point as you travel, as you look, whatever direction you have for that particular day, look every minute. Take a look up around you for a second. Sometimes you got to look a little hard. Look back down. Take your time. Pay attention to your surroundings. And again, frigate bird. Frigate bird, basically in the islands, we see a lot of them in the Bahamas and these out islands. They live on the islands, and during the day they travel offshore to feed. And in general, they produce fish. Now, they're not always going to be dolphin. At times it's going to be blue marlin. And sometimes you're going to sailfish offshore. You're going to billfish mostly. They love billfish, but at times what you're going to notice about a frigate bird, less fish with dolphin, but big fish. You see those pictures of the big bull and the big cow? Chances are they probably came off the frigate bird. But again, knowing that as you travel and you're paying attention and you're making your $4 or $5 of fuel worth it because you're paying attention and you spotted that frigate bird, we're going to do the same thing we did with the floating debris in the weed line. Cap, pull them back. Pull those throttles back. And as you look, and you sit out of gear now, the captain is conscious of which way the current was going. Remember, as we drove into the current when we were trolling or we mapped out our path for the day we were making our way, now remember, was he in the current side? Was he going with the top? Be conscious of what the wind and the current is doing to the boat while you sit there and analyze this bird. Because as this bird does circles around this area, he's either doing circles or he's traveling. Now, if a frigate bird is traveling, he's not stopped. He just seems to be making his way offshore. He may be going offshore. He may be coming back in from offshore. His hunt is over. Now he's on his way back in and he's looking. So understand the difference. Is that bird traveling or is he really looking at something? Now, best case scenario, in some fashion, these birds are circling. They're going around in a circle and they're looking at something underneath them. Now as we pull back the throttles and I look forward and I see this bird circling, is he staying way up or is he down on the surface? Is he coming down? As I notice that, I'm making sure my crew has got everything ready to go. I know that the spinners are now ready to go and my bait box and my chunks and everything is ready. Because what's about to happen here is generally going to be a larger sized fish. Now I'm using the same rod. I'm still using my 20-pound spinner and I'm using my whatever leader I need based on the moon. But in general, in my mind, I know that I have a chance of producing bigger fish. Now, as I look at him, two things I notice. If he's way up here circling, I know one thing. A, there is something here, and he's looking at it. But B, based on the fact that he's so high, I know that he's trying to get a better vantage point to see what's there, so I know that the fish he's looking at is not right on the surface. He's looking down, and he's getting a better vantage point, and he's waiting for that fish to come to the surface. The fish is feeding on something, or traveling, and he's coming up, and the fish is going down. Now, as the fish comes up, the bird comes down. And that's what you're noticing here. You're going to get a bite on either scenario. Obviously, if he's right on the surface, and sometimes you see the frigate coming back down, and he's working whatever it is right on the surface, and you go by trolling a bait, you're going to get a bite. Don't think that you can't get a bite just because you see that fish so high. The fish also hears you. He also sees that bait. He also, as you troll, which we're going to talk about with the rods, he hears that and sees it. So, observe. I see the bird. Take the boat out of gear. Watch the bird. If he stays up high, that's fine. If he goes down low, make your way there pretty quick because you know the fish are on top. Nonetheless, either scenario is going to produce something for you. Now, I am a big fan of the spinning rods. If you had the 2 conventional rods with you, this would probably be a pretty good time to put those out. I'm going to stick with the spinner. I just feel more comfortable with a Dolphin and a spinning rod. Personal preference, it doesn't matter either one. 2 rods now. I'm going with 2. I'm not going to stay away from the 1. I'm going to go with 2 rods, and I'm going to approach the bird. Now the bird's doing that circle, so I know that aerial-wise, if this is the bird, if I'm looking down above the bird and I'm on top of this, I'm going to troll around the bird. So now as he turns, I'm turning with him. Not meaning I'm trying to match his direction, but I'm going around underneath the bird in a circle. And in general, I would say 8 to 12 knots. Now, 8 to 12 knots, I've got the 2 rods out the back. And in general, if you don't get a bite on that first pass, you come around this deal and you're not getting bit, 1 or 2 things is happening. Especially if that fish is real close to the water. A, it's been a full moon and they're not eating. So you're going to end up having to go throw a live bait. Or you're dealing with a blue marlin or sailfish or some sort of billfish. That's what you're dealing with if you take a couple spins around there. Or as you spin around, you look at your rod or you find your bait and the rod goes, dunk, kind of bends over. You've got a billfish trying you. A dolphin's not going to sit there and peck at your bait. So be conscious of where your bait is. If you can see it, great. If you can't, just watch the rod tip. Look at that rod tip, watch it. If you start to see that, chances are you got a billfish that's trying your bait behind you. So again, no, and again, I'm not going out there for billfish. I'm going to fill my box. But if it's a billfish, catch it. Again, recapping, dolphin, blue marlin, sailfish, billfish. You visually found the bird. You've taken the time to look up every few minutes as you travel. Less fish. Generally, unless they're on a board or a floating object that has tons of fish with it, generally you're going to notice less fish. You're going to see bigger fish. Always noticing the difference. And again, all these things, what happens is it becomes natural to you. What's natural to you when you go out there? It's natural to me. When I see something, I don't have to think about what I should do anymore. It's natural. I just start to look, I pull it out of here, I'm ready, boom, and it all becomes natural. Now, anything that we've talked about in these other scenarios with the throwable device and all that stuff, and the checklist that we talk about, when you do it so many times and you have all these things lined up, this is going to become second nature, even if you don't fish that much, because you're going to do it, you'll do it again eventually. And you kind of get a rhythm into understanding what you're looking at and the science behind what's really going on. Is the fish deep? Bird's way up, so that fish is deep. Oh, he's right on the surface, so let's get over there a little quicker. You'll get used to it. Last thing, when you do find that bird, remembering course change. You've deviated from your path. We're going to talk about the path. You've gone out, you've mapped out your path. Now you're circling around this fish trying to figure out, and sometimes you're going to spend 20 minutes. Well, in 20 minutes, in a 3.2 knot tide out of gear, probably went 1.2 miles. You're 1.2 miles off your path, so just be conscious. This whole thing, every little thing, best thing I can tell you, always think like when I was a mate. When I was afraid to screw up dolphin fishing, what was the captain going to ask for next? I was always there a step ahead. Be a step ahead, analyze where you're at. Don't just throw rods out and do what you need to do. Always be thinking ahead. What's Cap going to ask me for next? Make you a better fisherman. Anyway, frigate bird, big dolphin. Question?
How far from the bird do you throw your bait? I mean, in terms of how close you get to it.
Great question.
And if you do you chum or anything else?
Right, great question. Basically, the question was, how close do we get to the bird? How far do we throw our bait from the bird? Do we start chumming or chunking and all that stuff? Not generally. First things first, if I go around this bird, generally, I would say it's 50 to 100 feet. Once in a while, if I'm frustrated with not getting a bite, I may come into the path here. But what I know about the birds and, and this stuff, as long as you're within the vicinity of getting bit and I'm trolling, I can be 50 to 100 feet to 150 feet away. If I'm throwing a chunk or I'm throwing a live bait, let's say that you went by and you did that scenario where you went by twice and you did not get a bite. And you know there's a full moon because you were paying attention the day before you went, and you knew they were finicky, so you had your fluorocarbon rigs on your spinning rods. Now you didn't get bit on that trolled bait, so you went over there, you took your dip net, you put a bait on, you fired it over. You're going to fire it as close to where you think he's looking at. Very simple. And a lot of times, the rod's going to bend over. They just won't eat the trolled bait. They've been eating all night. These dolphin are full. They don't care about a trolled bait going by. They've been eating that for the last 10 hours. This may be 1 o'clock the next day with the sun at the highest point in the sky, so he's not interested in troll. That's why when you convert over to your live baits, that's when you're going to notice that hopefully it is dolphin and generally not a billfish if you're dolphin fishing. So great question. Excellent. Any other questions?
What about jigs?
Jigs. The question was, what about jigs? Would I throw jigs at this? If I'm trolling around it, I'll get a bite as quick as a jig's gonna get a bite. No, I like the hookup ratio on my bait, my trolled bait, better than I do on my jig, because I'm stopping the movement of the bait. But I'm gonna stick with my trolled bait on that, and I'm gonna go by it. If that doesn't work, then I'm gonna go in with my live bait. Anyone else? That's it? Let's go on to the next section.